Hello, all. This is Jim Ransom with another set of poems in our Morning Jim series. December, the season that leads up to Christmas, is here again. And even if it is cloudy outside today, which it is here in western Pennsylvania, I can't help but remember that this is the month of the year for children to be happy. It culminates at Christmas, of course, but then children are not always happy, are they? They live in the moment and strive to find happiness in those moments. But sometimes their parents find lessons in their behavior and they are told they must improve. There has never been a better teacher than the English tutor unparalleled, that is Hilaire Belloc. I've read some of his poems from this book before. So today we're going to read once again or listen to some of his cautionary tales for children from this wonderful book that I've had in my library for many years. You can see from the Victorian dress of the children that they all seem to be appropriate for the time. And so, if these don't make you laugh, I'm not sure you are ready for Christmas. And I'm going to start with the story of Godolphin Horn. And the epigram here says, Godolphin Horn was cursed with the sin of pride, and afterward became a bootblack. Godolphin Horn was nobly born, and there he is, early in his life. He held the human race in scorn and lived with all his sisters where his father lived in Berkeley Square, and oh, the laugh was deathly proud. He never shook your hand or bowed, but merely smirked and nodded thus. How perfectly ridiculous. Alas, that such affected tricks should flourish in a child of 6, for such was young Godolphin's age. Just then the court required a page, whereat the Lord High Chamberlain, the kindest and the best of men, he went good-naturedly and took a perfectly enormous book called People Qualified to be Attendant on His Majesty, and murmured as he scanned the list to see that no one should be missed. There's William Coots, he's got the flu, and Billy Higgs, he would never do. And Guy de Vere is far too young, and wasn't Dalton's father hung? And as for Alexander Byng, I think I know the kind of thing. A churchman, cleanly, nobly born. Come, let us say, Godolphin Horn. But hardly had he said the word when murmurs of dissent were heard. The King of Iceland's eldest son said, Thank you, I am taking none. The aged Duchess of Athlone remarked in her subacid tone, I doubt if he is what we need. With which the bishops all agreed, and even Lady Mary Flood, so kind and oh, so really good, said, no, he wouldn't do it all. He'd make us feel a lot too small. The Chamberlain said, well, no doubt you're right, one cannot tell. He took his gold and diamond pen and scratched Godolphin out again. So now, Godolphin is the boy who blacks the boots at the Savoy. Yeah, sure. Well, let's read for a final reading. Let's read the story of Lord Lundy, who was too freely moved to tears and thereby ruined his political career. Lord Lundy, from his earliest years, was far too freely moved to tears. For instance, if his mother said, "Lundy, it's time to go to bed," he bellowed like a little Turk. Or if his father, Lord Dunkirk, said, "Hi," in a commanding tone, "Hi, Lundy, leave the cat alone." And there is Lord Dunkirk addressing Lord Lundy. Lord Lundy, letting go its tail, would then raise so terrible a wail as moved his grandpapa, the Duke, to utter the severe rebuke, "When I, sir, was a little boy, an animal was not a toy." And there is the Duke. Giving an advice to Lord Lundy. His father's elder sister, who was married to a parvenu, confided to her husband, "Drat, the miserable peevish brat, why don't they drown the little beast?" Suggestions which, to say the least, are not what we expect to hear from daughters of an English peer. His grandmamma, his mother's mother, who had some dignity or other, the Garter, or no matter what, I can't remember all the lot, said, "Oh, that I were brisk and spry, to give him that for which to cry." An empty wish, alas, for she was blind and nearly 93. And there she is in her 93-ish glory. I am beginning to understand that state. The dear old butler thought, but there, I really neither know nor care for what the dear old butler thought. In my opinion, butlers ought to know their place and not to play the old retainer night and day. I'm getting tired, and so are you, so let's cut this poem into two. And guess what? Lord Lundy's second canto is coming up. It happened to Lord Lundy then, as happens to so many men, towards the age of 26, they shoved him into politics, in which profession he commanded the income that his rank demanded. In turn, as Secretary for India, the colonies, and war. But very soon his friends began to doubt if he were quite the man. Thus, if a member rose to say, as members do from day to day, arising out of that reply, and here's the member rising in Parliament to question the Secretary for War, or whatever it was, and Lord Lundy would begin to cry. A hint at harmless little jobs would shake him with convulsive sobs. And there he is, at work as a secretary for something or other, and he's full of tears. While, as for revelations, these would simply bring him to his knees and leave him whimpering like a child. It drove his colleagues raving wild. They let him sink from post to post, from 1,500 at the most to 8, and barely 6, and then to be curator of Big Ben, and finally there came a threat to oust him from the cabinet. The Duke, his aged grandsire, bore the shame till he could bear no more. He rallied his declining powers, summoned the youth to Brackley Towers, and bitterly addressed him thus: "Sir, you have disappointed us. We had intended you to be the next prime minister, but three. The stocks were sold. The press was squared. The middle class was quite prepared, but as it is, my language fails. Go out and govern New South Wales." The aged patriot groaned and died. And gracious, how Lord Lundy cried. By now, you will understand that these verses were not actually meant or penned to instruct children, but instead to arouse laughter in his audience of young men and women who no doubt had experienced or more likely seen some of this in real life. Perhaps that is where the English belief that one needs to always keep a stiff upper lip in times of adversity came from. But remember that the final tears that we mentioned were no doubt in celebration of the fact that now his grandsire had fallen into a state of complete death. Lord Lundy would thus inherit a dukedom. Not exactly a cause for sorrow. Next week, our offerings will be a bit different. I'll be reading from this book, Joy. It's 100 poems selected from the modern era by one of our better modern poems, whose name is Christian Wyman. Christian Wyman, Joy. And I've already been reading into this book, and I think his selections are excellent. And they don't go back through all of time. They stick to the modern era, where we all live, like it or not. And I like it. So, at any rate, I'll see you then, and we'll read some modern poems from the collection by Christian Wyman. Bye now.